I'm Hiba Elias.
And I'm Chevon Drew.
And welcome to Momentum, a Race Forward podcast, where we explore how racial justice work
is showing up everywhere around us. So Hiba.
Chevon, what's going on, man?
Oh, a lot is going on. There has been an increase in the amount of listeners that are tuning into Momentum, a Race Forward podcast. I'm not sure if you know that.
Yes. Our producer is asking us if we're recording, y'all. Just an update right now before we even get into that, Chevon. Let's let the people know that we are recording from our homes due to COVID. We've been forced to quarantine for the past 3 months and change. So this is our new reality. We've been able to connect virtually. I'm looking at Chevon right now on the screen. You look good in that red sweater, girl.
I always look good in this, girl. Thank you.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I
Let
wore
the
it for
folks
you.
know. Yes, I love it. I gave you a Selena t-shirt today because it's all I had. I was burning up in my sweatshirt.
I'm sorry. You know, I like to be hot. You know, West Indian blood, girl. I like to be warm.
So I just want to let all y'all know that we are recording virtually. And our producer just asked if I press the record button. Hendel, I have pressed the record button. We are good to go. So Chevon, I'm gonna pass the mic back. Let the folks know where we are right now with our podcast, Momentum.
Momentum is now trending worldwide. So, Hiba, I think we can thank all of the listeners. We can thank all of the supporters who have been sharing Momentum in their roundup lists for podcasts that you can listen to learn more about racial justice work from the people that we interview and the resources that we share. That is so exciting that people are interested in who's doing this work and have decided to tune in and share all over the world. Hiba, how do you feel? I think we're trending all the way up the chart at this moment.
Yeah, we're actually number 84 on the top charts for Apple Podcasts. It feels good. It feels good that we were given an opportunity to speak our minds and that folks are actually interested in hearing what we have to say, right? I'm happy. I can truly say that I'm happy.
Oh, I feel good about it as well. Honestly, I say this a lot at our org, which is that long-term systemic work, it doesn't seem sexy. And when I say sexy, what I mean is that the outcomes are not always immediate. You dig in for the long haul when you have people working within local governments, with other people of color, non-people of color who work in local government, who want to get together and try to make changes from the inside. That takes time, right? When you have teammates that are training people from across the nation on how to bring a racial equity lens to the work that they're doing at their own institution or organization, that doesn't turn around in one day or even 1 week or even 1 month or even 1 year. It's long haul work. And so for me, to see that people are tuning into Momentum and pushing it up the charts says to me that the work that Race Forward has worked on for so many years, even before we got here, it has a legacy of people that have come through these doors and put their sweat into this work to popularize racial justice, first of all, to even just popularize talking about it. That was a mission, that was part of the work, and that has been done. Whether or not people credit the organizations like Race Forward that worked so hard to get that done, like Color Lines, working hard to popularize the fact that you need to name this stuff explicitly and don't just put out news stories that don't talk about race and act like you don't know why things are happening that are happening. Like, that is a milestone. And then to move forward and see that now people know something exists and are able to talk about it. How do they talk about it accurately, measurably? How do they institute policies and protocols that start to shift what they're seeing? That work doesn't sound as sexy as some of the other ways that you can engage in the work, right? So we appreciate all the ways that people engage and all the entry points. But I deeply appreciate that people are taking a look at the systemic work that has to be done over the long term, no matter what the news cycle is talking about, and investing in learning about that by subscribing and sharing the podcast. I want to say thank you so much. It's so important to me. I appreciate it.
I definitely want to echo that. Thank you. I want to echo the special guests that we have on the show that are knee deep in moving the needle on racial justice movement. Without y'all on this show, we wouldn't be where we are right now, right? I wanna echo the roles in which people play within the social justice, racial justice movement, right? There's different ways that show up. And funny story, I just want to get into this real quick. There have been many groups that are organizing on the grounds to protest locally. And I'm a part of a Muslim group on WhatsApp. And one of the young women yesterday kind of outed everyone that was in the group and was basically saying, like, the way y'all showed up for the Sudanese protests last year. Today marks 1 year since the massacre in Sudan, by the way. So she was basically saying, the way y'all showed up for the Sudanese protests, I'm going to need y'all to do the same when it comes to these protests that are happening right now on the grounds, and the one that we're specifically organizing in Brooklyn. And to me, I felt the way, right? Because it was a prejudgment, right? She assumed that the folks that she was calling out, because they were inactive in the group, weren't actually doing anything to support the Black Lives Movement and the racial justice movement, right? So I had to step in and kind of just express nicely as a peer, the next time you decide to out people like that, be mindful that folks are working behind the scenes, right? Like, there's people that are on the forefront sacrificing their lives, right? But there are different roles that we all play, right? And my role specifically in this movement is to, one, donate, echo, have these conversations with my peers that are non-Black, make sure that my folks in the community are aware of what's going on. So sharing resources and things of that sort. There's different roles in which we all play. There's activists, there's weavers, there are people on the forefront, like I mentioned before. There are people that, don't necessarily have the right words to express how they feel or their stance, but they have the money to support the organizations that do. Right. So I just want everyone in this moment to be mindful of the different roles that people can step into and step up to share their you just have to find your niche. And I share that story because it's important, right? There's many moments where folks are basically outing one another, like, you're not doing enough. And little did they know, folks, they step up in different ways. And I just want people to keep that in the forefront of their minds and to honor one another. We got to handle each other with care at this moment, right? We're all in this. So I just want to share that. I want people to sit with that and treat each other with delicacy during this time. We're needed. It's needed.
I agree. And you brought up a good point that there are many ways that people contribute, whether they are publicly naming those ways on social media or not. That doesn't mean that they're not doing work. And I would say that part of what you're seeing is it's kind of part of how white supremacy works. It's insidious, it's not as obvious as some of the other ways that it works. But the idea that you stress people out so much, you keep people devoid of resources so much that you're sitting at home probably wondering if anyone in your community might might take something from a business, a business that is owned by people of color in your community. But I see people arguing about that. I see people saying, well, why are you blacking out squares on your social media? That's not helpful. There are a lot of things that people who maybe are new to the movement for Black lives specifically, like, they may be trying to get involved in different ways. And I agree with you that perhaps our energy is not always needed in terms of trying to tell others what to do, as opposed to maybe sharing what we're doing. But again, it's not for me to say what everyone needs to do, right? That's me personally. I think that I've had a journey and am on a continuous journey here. And the people who have helped me the most on this journey are the people who have called me in to help me understand, here's how what you're doing could be more helpful, or here's how it might be less helpful than you think. Oh, here's a resource to educate you on why. But making assumptions about what someone is or isn't doing instead of asking, I think that's something we sometimes engage in that in our own lives, in any relationship, not just in this very distressing moment, but we can sometimes assume that our partner didn't do a thing. And then they're like, yes, I did. And you're like, oh. So yes to all of what you're saying. Yes to having grace and giving people grace. And then also yes to understanding that there are many roles. And on that note, I would like to drop into the chat. We have a former fellow that was at Race Forward, Deepa Iyer, who during her tenure with us, she wrote a mid-year reflection on our individual roles within a social change ecosystem. And she included guiding questions that help you figure out where do you fit in, right? So I'm going to share this so that we can put it in the um, I'm going to share this so that we can put it in the podcast show notes. But just to give you a taste of like what Deepa was talking about, there are storytellers. Like I raise my hand, right? There are professional communications people. I raise my hand. There are people who, they're designing flyers or whatever it is. Raise my hand, right? I fit into that area. There are caretakers. Who is taking care of their babies when people are out doing the work? Those people matter too, right? They're doing the work. Caregivers. There are frontline agitators, right? Like sometimes you got to stir it up. We can't all stay home, but we can't all be on the front lines either, right? There are builders. There are healers. Let me tell you something. And this brings us to our next topic. When COVID kicked off, who did you see engaging in activities on Instagram Live that were healing to large groups of people and started to trend worldwide? Who did you see? Was that not the hip hop community? That's music, right? So that's the arts, but that's also a healing practice for many people. So like, who's going to tell those people that they're not a part of movement work when they're bringing healing to a lot of Black people who are now feeling the brunt of coronavirus, but also now feeling the brunt of other things that we have going on right now? National unrest because of police violence and killings. So there are so many ways to get involved. I agree with you. We don't want to get into too much of like shaming people in our circle unless you feel that's what's really warranted. I'll let you do you. But you might want to share the article that I'm referring to with them so they could find their place. That's my suggestion anyway. So tell me, COVID's been going on, the coronavirus outbreak, the pandemic, the global pandemic. Tell me what has been going on for you. What has been going on for you with coronavirus?
Coronavirus. Sorry, I had to just throw that in there. Full transparency. We've been working from home for over 3 months now. And for, this might be TMI, but I'm sharing because this is a safe space. I feel like me and Chevon have created a safe space between us and all that are listening. I take care of my parents. Yeah. My mother is currently in Sudan. She left in the beginning of February, and due to COVID, everything has shut down. So I have not been able to see my mother for the last 4 months, and it's challenging. But thankful for technology, I'm able to talk to her every day, check in on her well-being, check in on the status of folks in Africa, which is another conversation that needs to be addressed. But that's a reality that I'm living with right now, is taking care of my father, who is here with me, and also just checking in on my mother's well-being and my family's well-being back home. I know many of us are experiencing harsh realities. I have plenty of friends that have lost members of their family to COVID. It's an unfortunate situation that we're living in. Black folk and POC folks are dying at a much higher rate. And that's something that has been discussed for the past 4 months. Why is that? And this is why we are here protesting. These are one of the reasons why we are out on the forefront protesting and demanding equality. I want to know how you're doing. What's your feels at this moment? What's going on for you? What's your reality?
First of all, I didn't know that your mom was still out of the country, and I want to thank you for just taking care of yourself. And I hope that you're taking advantage of some of the opportunity that the organization has laid out for us to try to take care of ourselves as best we can, even though our work is like double right now, triple. I know that can be hard as a Black woman. I know that sometimes I have been socialized to just do more and more in a crisis as opposed to take care of myself. And I want to just say to you that rest is revolutionary for a Black woman. So for me, rest is actually doing part of the work, which is that you're pushing back against white supremacy systems by refusing to be the workhorse. And, maybe I can phrase that better. I think that rest is revolutionary for Black women because part of white supremacy has been in this country to take the bodies, literally, take the labor, take the fruit of the loins of Black women and use it for capitalism. So I really am sorry to hear that this has really separated your family in terms of how, I know the borders were closed in so many countries, and that Black people are suffering under the weight of this virus. So thank you for the full transparency. And please, I know I shipped you something trivial. Like, I think I shipped you like some nails. Oh, you're wearing them.
I have them on right now and they look amazing. You saved my life, Chevon.
I was trying to, for folks listening, I was just trying to send little cheerful things to people, as people have reached out to me sometimes when days feel dark, and like sometimes a small joke that they sent me, or a small gif, the kind of gift that's inappropriate for me to talk about here,
Sure.
but for me as a Black person is freaking hilarious. Like, that sometimes like lifts my spirit. Like, and so I was trying to think about that when I learned a little bit about the struggle that Hiba was going through. I didn't know all of this, but so I sent her nails. So
I have them on and I appreciate you so much for them.
listen, Megan said we're allowed to be classy, bougie, or ratchet, or all three. I don't know. So I just was like, are we wearing fake nails, or what are we doing?
With these nails, I feel a little, I feel classy now, Let me tell you, when outside opens back up and businesses are back into play, it takes $65 to get my nails done.
Maybe you're too bougie, actually. Let's just, I'm going to redirect that conversation, because me and you might need to have a conversation about budgeting. Anyway, I'm just glad to see you smile. I know that's a trivial thing, but again, like sometimes those things can just pull people out of the moment of darkness and be like, oh my gosh, yes, like there's still some joy and fun little things that we might have the privilege to engage in to try to restore ourselves.
Yes.
And if it's not that, it doesn't have to be consumption based. I sent her that because I just happened to know that whenever I would be working with this woman, she always had her short nails all manicured and groomed, like super short, but very groomed. And I'm like, maybe that'll cheer her up. But it doesn't have to be consumption based. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it could be that you make a phone call. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I make a phone call out of the blue to a coworker and talk shit to them, and they just laugh. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to get off the phone, just because I want to hear you laugh. Sometimes it's whoever's in your home, if you can get a tight hug from them and keep you going. Maybe it's you sitting down and doing some breathing exercises, because this COVID situation, like, people have shed tears over people they don't know. Like, Amen. You're seeing, I don't know if the rest of y'all saw, like, we're national here. If you didn't see in New York how bad it went down, and seeing in Brooklyn, this Black woman who was like this beloved school administrative, like she was in a leadership role at the school, and she died, and she was a young woman, and it was just to see her face, it's so distressing, like the amount of Black death. And then frankly, for me personally, as someone who has worked in media for a long time with digital media, it pains me to know that for so long, I have personally been in tune and aware of the ways in which media can contribute to white supremacy culture, from reporting on, violence that has happened, or so-called crimes, alleged crimes, reporting on it by rewriting and typing up the police statements verbatim without questioning anyone else at the scene who may have a different account of what happened, so that it trains people to just believe that whatever you typed up from the police report is the truth. Like, that's a part of it. From not naming race and racism, from talking about race as though it's this nebulous thing that you don't know what happened here today. Like, just there are ways that they have contributed, people in the media. And it's hard for me to see that even in this moment, that seeing Black death like that, I know that there are people who are profiting off of it.
Yes.
I know that there are people who run news organizations that fund hateful groups, but are making money off of reporting on the death of Black people from COVID. So when I tell you that white supremacy, like the system of it, is insidious, it's hard for you to not participate somehow in it. Because I'm like, do I want to click this article? What outlet is this from? Who will be getting my clicks? Mm-hmm. That's how far I'm thinking. So with COVID, I saw so many stories that pained me, and I just want people to know that if you have lost someone to COVID, that my heart is with you. To all the people of color who don't have the full access to healthcare, my heart is with you. Mm. These are the type of systemic issues that so many of the guests and so many of the people that work with Race Forward, that partner with us, that's the type of things they're working on. People who are concerned that if something happens with the food supply during COVID, like if people start getting sick and then the food supply is disrupted. I don't know about you, but in New York, we have had people who take over empty spaces and empty lots to try to start a garden and get ticketed by the city
Right.
for doing so in neighborhoods of color. So when I tell you that it's insidious and COVID is just kind of like, I feel like peeling back yet another layer about how it's all interconnected, like Hiba, I feel like I'm okay. Like you said, like there's certain privileges that people who can work from home have. And that's why I want to use my energy to bring light to the fact that there's lots of people who can't, people, again, people come here and they may be on the front lines. You got African nurses, you got West Indian nurses, you got, I don't know if you saw the article that talked about Filipino nurses, all of the ways that colonization has worked to bring different groups of people here to do certain types of labor when white people got tired of that labor and bring them in and then now expose them without proper PPE. But when I look around at what's happening outside, I'm seeing people, in full face masks and body armor and all of this and that for people protesting. So I'm trying to figure out why I saw healthcare workers in garbage bags for PPE. Do you see what I'm saying, Hiba?
I have so many feels. There's so many factors in regards to COVID. But I before I even make these points, I do want to echo Chevon's comments around our hearts being with the family members who have lost close family members. I stand with you. I feel for you. I have a close friend whose mother is a front of the line worker at the hospitals, and she would come home, Chevon, I kid you not, for the last 2 months, literally in tears from what she's experiencing in the hospitals. Literally in tears. It's been so many moments where I've had to pray over her via phone to make sure that her spirits were intact and that she was able to get up the next day.
Oops, I was on mute, Hiba, so you heard me, but no one else did. So I'll repeat that. If there are mutual aid initiatives going on in some of the cities hard hit by coronavirus, or even that are trying to figure out how to proceed given the amount of protests going on, because sometimes that can be difficult for folks who, if you need help getting what you need. If you have mutual aid projects, please let us know on social media. We can help amplify some of those, because I think organizing is such a large field. And I know that organizers are so busy that often, America doesn't always see organizers on TV, right? You might see what they call talking heads or what they call commentators or they call critics. Which is great. Everyone has their role and their lane in life. However, I want to say that organizers, they're working all the time, whether the spotlight is on the work or not. So that's the type of initiatives that we're referring to right now. And they serve communities directly, some of these initiatives, and we're happy to try to amplify them if you think that it would help people. Just like, I don't know if you saw, if people were feeling like their neighborhood wasn't safe for them, like if they felt like their neighbors may come against them or something like that, people had figured out how to make a caravan to get you out and get you a safer place to stay if your neighborhood didn't feel like it was the right place for you to be survival-wise in this moment. So, there are all types of ways. Just wanted to bring that up and say thank you to all the organizers around every racial justice topic that you organize around.
We need like echoes in the background, like round of applause for moments like this. Just to give these folks a round of applause, because it's important. The work y'all are doing is important, and we stand with y'all in doing it. I kind of want to shift the conversation to what's currently happening, and I think we touched briefly in our earlier conversation around the Black Lives Movement and what's currently happening. We're day 9 of protesting. And the reason for the protesting has stemmed from the death of George Floyd. But I will say that his death has started a revolution. And this is something I have never seen before. So I'm thankful to be in this moment. I'm thankful to be able to experience this. And I want us to get into this a little bit. I want us to address Black lives and the unjust system that was built that does not honor us.
It's hard to speak about this moment, honestly, if you're naming names, as someone who does work in digital media and, whether it's websites, email marketing, or social marketing, like you're exposed to a lot, right? And while you've named some names here, there are names that they don't trend. There are studies that say that a Black person is killed by police every 23 hours. Uh, for our dear listeners, please visit mappingpoliceviolence.com. Let me make sure. Yes, mappingpoliceviolence.org. Let me just drop that in the chat for our esteemed producer as well. Your eyes will run red if you really look at how often this is happening. So how do I feel? I mean, at times, just completely filled with rage, really, because as much as I feel some optimism around seeing that all 50 states protested when it used to be that Black people protested and then had to go back to work on Monday after protesting Sunday night and getting your ass whooped by police, in New York. Like, you go to work and you're sitting with all of the white people at work and they don't say a thing because they were at brunch yesterday. Like, that has been my experience. I don't know about y'all, but trying to just move through really white workspaces where in the past I have brought up these issues and how even having all white workspaces contributes to it. Everything is death by a million cuts. If you can't even go to work and see anybody who's looking like you with a position of power, or, if you can't go to work and feel supported, or you can't go to work and be yourself because you have to put on a mask while people are being murdered in your neighborhood over the weekend and no one talks about it or acknowledges it at all, or even tells you, hey, how are folks doing today? Do you need time? Like, there are places where that's not happening, and I've been at those places. And for me, I feel some optimism that all 50 states are engaged right now. However, I have to tell you, being exposed to media on a daily basis in real time, through the organizers that we follow on social and so many others, you don't want me to start listing the names of the Indigenous people, the Native American people, the some of whom have disabilities or mental health issues that the police are murdering. You don't want to know the names of the missing Indigenous women that go missing. When do you even see the media talk about Indigenous people? The way that I was taught is that they're not even here. That is what I was taught in school. So when I tell you the depth of white supremacy to even just fuck up your textbooks so that by the time you're an adult, you try to talk to someone in your office or wherever you work and you mention something to them and it's a piece of history they've never even heard before. So they look at you like you're a liar. What are you talking about? They freed the slaves. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's no Native Americans left. We don't even need to talk about that. That was history. That's over. Okay. So I feel rage because we're not even, the media doesn't even want to go there. They don't want to talk about Corinne Gaines and other Indigenous people who have been killed by police. They don't even go there. So when people are trying to force me, I have some people in my life that try to act like, yo, okay, because they're covering this finally, that I need to give all of these certain outlets my money. I'll be damned. I have sat here and watched as places have ignored, white supremacy culture and violence against people of color and reported what the police said as though it was facts, and then go ahead and make money off the clicks when it comes out that the police were lying 2 years later and give the police a pension to walk away with money and go have a nice retirement after killing people's kids in the street. So I will not be having anyone telling me where to give my money or which media outlet deserves my money, because some of the ones that y'all want me to give my money to, they don't even have Black people in leadership, period. So I don't know why you think I should be working hard and trying to pay people to report racist stuff about me or not hire anybody who looks like me. I have other plans for my time, my life, and my money. But y'all do what you like to do. not you, dear listeners, because I know y'all are working on other things. I'm talking about the people that's trying to push me to put dollars where it doesn't belong. But that's how I feel. I feel rage because people actually don't necessarily see when Indigenous people are getting harmed. People don't all know that a lot of people who get harmed by police or killed or shot or maimed also have disabilities. People try to call the police for help if there's a mental health crisis happening in their home, and the police come in and shoot everyone from elderly women in the Bronx, look it up, to children, young people, because they are struggling with a mental health issue, and oh, they had a pen and they were threatening me with it, or some other such nonsense. So, it's not that we are at Race Forward, like it's not our main focus to focus on what they call activism around disability. I know there are organizations that is their sole work. So I don't want to try to say or co-opt the work they're doing. What I'm trying to say is find some of those organizations, find some of those organizers, and start to really get a sense of how insidious this police violence is. Because the idea that it's Black men and Black men only, oh, they suffer it. Oh, and the daily indignities. I've been there and been a part, like been a witness to it, and have to try to step in, and you risk your life trying to protect a Black man from the disrespect and the violent ways of people who want to harm them and are given the authority and the weapons to do so. But I want you to start thinking about who else is a part of that group. What are as Kimberly Crenshaw would say, what are the intersecting oppressions based on someone's identity that can happen and make police violence something that they are even more prone to? Let's just think about a Black person who's deaf, for example. If police even bother to yell commands, if that person doesn't hear, what you think happens to that person? This is the type of stuff that, I get really rageful because I'm waiting for us to really talk about everybody. I want you to talk about everybody.
Yeah, I wanna. It's so many points that you made, but some of the things that spoke out to me is like when you were mentioning these things and mentioning that white supremacy is deeply rooted in all the things that we do and all the things that we've experienced, is starting with our textbooks, right? My first experience with police brutality is the learning of the death of Amadou Diallo, who was brutally murdered by police force, shot 41 times, and was unarmed. So as a 5-year-old little girl, that was my first time experiencing something to this extent. And not understanding that this will be an ongoing, not even a situation, an ongoing experience for me, and not just for me, but for the people of the States, for people worldwide, because this issue, white supremacy, is a worldwide issue. And I want to echo the fact that this experience that I had as a 5-year-old girl, I don't see that reflected in the textbooks that my younger cousins and siblings are now reading, even though that has shaped much of the work that we are doing right now within the racial justice movement. I'm pretty sure there are organizations that have been started after the death of Amadou Diallo and many others. So I want to echo that. And I want to echo the fact that white supremacy is deeply rooted within everything that we do and everything that we're experiencing, and starting with our textbooks. And then I also want to get into another point that you made, Chevon, around mental health. We're in a time now, well, I'll be honest, I'll be transparent. When I was in high school, mental health wasn't a topic of conversation for us. It wasn't encouraged that we seek therapy if we were experiencing something, right? And if someone was to bring it up, it was looked down upon, but I'm happy to know now that it's a continuing conversation that people are holding, that people are encouraging. I know between you and I, Chevon, we've had numerous conversations about taking care of our mental health and our well-being, our physical well-being. And I want to get into that right now, because this is a moment right now where a lot of people are taking in all the feels in the world and are unsure on how to operate and how to best take care of themselves during this moment. It's a lot of things to consume digitally online. There are a lot of videos that are not good for our souls, but yet we are battling with staying connected. Like I mentioned to you earlier, Chevon, like I've had this constant battle of staying connected and wanting to be in on the loop on what's going on, but also feeling like I need to take a pause for the cause to make sure that my mental sanity is 100%. And I'm thankful that many organizations, many social platforms are sharing Black owned mental health clinics, therapists, and resources for folks to tap into and to make sure that they are, doing the work and helping themselves first, right? And I always say this, I always say that if you are not 100% and you are not able to take care of yourself 100%, you are not able to do the work for you and others. And I want to echo that. And I want to echo the fact that in this moment, in this time, that we need to make sure that we are mentally okay, emotionally okay, physically okay. So many points that you've made, Chevon, that I truly sit with every day.
Well, I'm glad you moved toward a solutions discussion because, like, I have a lot of rage. I have rage when white people use the N word to me or non Black people use that word to me. I have rage when like I said, when I see the media misconstruing things. I have, there's rage, but also like rage. And then, like, I try to move toward solutions. So, in that, dear listeners, um, regarding what I said a moment ago, I just want to say that I'm going to share with our producer for the show notes. I'm pretty sure Race Forward has a race reporting guide. We also have a resource called Drop the I Word, which is something you can use to encourage your local papers or your whatever national news outlets that you do choose to subscribe to or watch or read or whatever. You can engage them and encourage them to refer to people who do not have papers to be in this country as people without documentation, right? Undocumented people, as opposed to some of the other language that I will not use that is dehumanizing to immigrants of color and that actually contributes to the way that they are violently treated and the way that that has been accepted hopefully up until now by large groups of the populace that were unconcerned previously about the whereabouts of undocumented immigrants. So I will share that. And then also, I believe we have a reporting guide that's specifically for reporting on the deaths or killings of people of color in police custody, which is different than a broader race reporting guide. So I actually want to see if maybe even if some of these need an update or a refresh, but I promise you that a lot of the things that Race Forward has produced are evergreen anyway. So even if you see it and you think it could use a slight refresh, I understand. We are nose to the grindstone. We have a beautiful presence online and all of that, but just understand that we are a largely people of color team and we are nose to the grindstone. So still make use of it, and I will work to see if there are things that can be updated to try to meet this very moment. I also will try to share if there are any recent articles on color lines, which is a daily news site that Race Forward publishes. They publish independently, but we publish the news site itself. But their coverage, they have an editor that is independent of the advocacy side of this organization. So they make daily choices on what they want to report on. And I want to mention that as a solution also, because as I mentioned, you don't want to just get your news from white editors. I want to be very clear about that. It's harmful. It's harmful. I don't know how people feel about it, but I just want to explicitly state that now is the time to look for news sources in which the editor, go ahead and look for what's called the masthead. To all of you who know this already, please, maybe ignore this quick moment and just tell a friend since you already know. Look for the masthead. Try to take a look at who is editing, because sometimes people get mad at a headline. People get mad at a deck, which would be what appears right below a headline. That's usually all what you're seeing on social when an article is shared, headline, deck. They're so upset at the framing, rightfully so. They feel like the framing doesn't fully address white supremacy culture or the systems of white supremacy. They're tweeting back at it. You might be tweeting the social media manager. That's not an editor. That's not who decided necessarily how to frame that link to the article that you're reading. Maybe they decided the tweet, but they probably didn't decide the headline, the deck, and the entire story, how it was going to be presented or assigned. So I want people to start thinking about how they can get people in the media to stop calling people illegal A person can't be illegal. I know God didn't put nobody here to be illegal. How does that happen? What does that even mean? That's a misnomer. It doesn't even mean anything, right? An action can be illegal. So those are some of the resources I'll try to share. And as far as mental health, I agree. And I'm going to try to share some of the mental health resources that I've seen, including Open Path Collective and therapyforblackgirls.com. I'll try to give those to our producer.
Chevon and I will share plenty of resources, but I also just wanted to get into the protests that are currently happening and the feels around that and the emotions of Black folk. Like Chevon mentioned, a lot of Black folk are enraged right now, and as they should be. Yeah, this country was built off of the backs of Black folk, and we're entitled to much more than what we currently have. And I feel like in this moment, people are going for it. People are going for it, and as they should. Yeah. I wanted to touch on one of the reasons that many Black folk at this moment are upset. It's frustrating to many Black folk, including myself, that non-Black folk and non-POCs are relying on us to educate them in why we are enraged and why we are protesting when they have been living the same experiences. I want to rephrase that. They haven't been living the same experiences, but they are witnessing the experiences in which we are living. And they are relying on us to educate them when they have ample opportunity, ample resources to tap into, to learn these things. And most of the rage that I see online to our non-POCs, to our non-Black folk, is because they are not taking the time now to educate themselves and to stand as allies. I know a lot of folks have issues with the term allies. We won't get into that. We can, but we won't. But this is one of the moments in which our non-Black folk listeners, our non-POC listeners, can take this in. Do not rely on us to educate y'all. By now, there are plenty of resources, in which we'll probably share in the detailed box as well, for you guys to educate yourselves on why this movement is important, on why folks are enraged, on why people are choosing to stand up against white supremacy and social and racial injustices across the nation, worldwide. And I want you just to be mindful, right? And I'll share this because I feel like it's important. I was in a training last week, and one of our white attendees spoke up. This is at the beginning of the protests, and she shared that in these moments, she's scared to speak up and check in on her Black friends and her Black colleagues because she's unsure of what to say, and she is unsure of what she does eventually choose to share, that it'll come off wrong and that it'll upset her Black colleague and friend furthermore. And I've had to express to her that her silence is taking a stance, right? Her choosing not to share anything is taking a stance. And in that moment, I had to educate her and how to address her Black colleagues and her friends. And I had to let her know, just as she would share her thoughts and her feels and her concerns and her empathy and her sympathy to her white friends and her white colleagues, in this moment, that's necessary as well. So do not opt to be silent when it comes to your Black people and your Black folks and your Black colleagues hurting. Checking in is okay. How you check in matters, yeah? But do not be silent and do not fear what the outcome may be. And I want people to take that and sit with it and be mindful of how they choose to show up and stand with us on the forefronts. A lot of rioting is coming into play, right? And I've seen many conversations that are being had around, rioting shouldn't be happening at this moment. That's not going to get us anywhere. We shouldn't be doing that. This is going to push us back furthermore. And I just want to name to those folks, like, you cannot tell Black folk how to feel in this moment. That's why we are enraged at this moment. You cannot tell Black folks how to express their emotions and how to express their feelings, right? And I also just want to state one thing. Rioting, in my opinion, this is strictly me. This is not Race Forward. This is not any other organization that is backing me up. Rioting, in my opinion, is necessary, right? Before the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1968, 110 cities started rioting. And that is in our history books. And I want to be very clear that something will come out of this. It's been done before and it will happen again. But I also want to note to the folks that are rioting, your intentions has to be pure. The places in which you are rioting has to be strategic. And I'll leave it there because I can get into detail about where they should be rioting, but I won't put that on the forefront. These are from my conversations with my peers. But I just want folks to know that there is good to come out of all of this. And please do not, if you are a person of color, if you are a Black folk, please do not allow any other race or ethnicity to tell you how to feel in this moment. You are obligated to feel all the feels under the sun. And that's me speaking from my heart. And I'll stop there because there's so much more I can say, but I feel my emotions getting up there. So Chevon, I will pass the mic to you.
Just listening to you speak again, for me as a person who I don't know what it is, but I feel like out the womb I was sitting there like, turn on the AM radio. I'm trying to hear talk radio. I'm trying to hear FM radio. I want to hear what's going on Street Soldiers. I want to hear everything. In fact, one of the only things that I didn't like was TV news as I grew up as a kid. I used to tell my folks, can you please turn it off? And I never have owned a TV of my own, like in life. We had TVs in the home, but like I've never owned one myself. I still don't own one. But something about TV news as a kid, by the time I got to the 5th grade, when they taught us how to read newspapers and how to compare coverage and compare language, when I hear you say the word riot even, I mean, I personally, I have a visceral reaction to that in my body because, language can be a tool of white supremacy culture as well. The way that people choose to label things. This is my part of my bone to pick with a lot of mainstream white-led media. The way that things are framed, the language that you use. First of all, this is not my indigenous language. Wherever my people first started, whether it's here or elsewhere, I'm going to guess that English, the mix of German and whatever else English is mixed with, is not their indigenous language. So let's first talk about that. How many people are speaking a language that is a colonized language that was forced upon them? All right, let's first even just mention that. So when you say the word riot, what comes to my mind is just like, is that even the word for this? That's the word that we're seeing in the media used. When I Google what is a riot, quote, it's a violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. You know what that makes me wonder? Whose peace? Because Black people ain't had no peace.
Okay.
Period. Whether it's somebody white calling the cops on you to use the cops as a weapon against you, or whether it's, like I said, you going to work and it's death by a million cuts with the way that people treat you in your place of employment, gaslighting you. You know what I mean? Like with the ways that people feel heaps and mounds of anxiety sending their Black children out into the world. There are people who don't want to have children right now. They're concerned, or they have children and they don't want to let them go outside not because of rioters, but because of white supremacy and violence.
Good framing.
The violence that is white supremacy. That is what bothers people. I want y'all, to our dear listeners, I want you to share this with your friends. Help us out by sharing a recent article on color lines. Go on colorlines.com. There is an article that just reported from public health professionals that, in fact, quote unquote, riots are not the main danger to Black people at this time. Racism is the main danger.
Yes.
Go look at that article. Okay. When you're talking about Colorlines has reported on the fact that FBI has named white supremacy as an issue that needs to be handled. When the FBI is telling you, come on now, what they done. Let's be for real. So when Colorlines has reported on people in the services, people in like service members have said that racism is the biggest thing that concerns them in their daily work. And you're supposedly, let people call it who say that they're patriots. You're serving your country That's what I'm told. So you're serving your country, but when they survey those people, they say that they're terrified of the racism that's embedded in the system and the racism that they face there. So this is everywhere. So please, when you talk like that, all I hear is language that might need to be replaced with another word. Because if it's a violent disturbance of the peace, I would like to know whose peace. Because like I said, I've been to many a protest and then go in on a Monday morning, and I'm sorry, certain people's peace was never really disturbed. They look still peaceful as they were yesterday. The Black people was still struggling. My Latin American friends was still struggling with trying to, like, you know, their emotions and trying to like move through the day and do the work they want to do. So that's my initial thoughts on what it is that you're saying. You know, I think it's good to be strategic. That's why I shouted out organizers. They are, to me, throw them up on Unsung. I don't know if y'all in the listening audience have ever seen Unsung. It's a series that a lot of Black people watch that talks about like who are some of the music greats that never got their flowers. They're still here. I think it's just like who's unsung, who is a dope artist that we overlook their career. And I would say that organizers are unsung. So if you want to know like how to get involved in getting into the streets and being on the front line in a way that is strategic, which is what Hiba I heard you saying, then I would say figure out who's organizing for Black lives in your city. If you want to organize with people of your own race or ethnicity, you know, try to do a search for what that ethnicity is, plus for Black lives. So is it Asians for Black lives? Is it South Asians for Black lives? Is it Jews for Black lives, which then you're going into religions? People have different affinity groups that they use to work toward helping to end anti-Blackness. So that would be my response, Hiba.
I appreciate that response, and I want to be very clear that this is a learning moment. Yeah, like the terminology that I use may not have been the best terminology to use, but I want folks to understand that this is right in this moment. That's a learning curve. No, but you've made a point though, right? So this is something that I was not knowledgeable. I did not know that this term, you know, in a sense was created through white supremacy. So I just want to be clear to the audience and letting them know, like, this is a learning moment and this is a practice that should be consistently done. Like, continue educating one another.
Struggling with my mic. Producer's like, why would you mute your own mic and say something important? Because my brain is in 20 places at a time during this time. Okay, thank you so much. The mic is back on. What I was saying is that you're reminding me, Hiba, of the way that certain outlets referred to people who were involved in the Dakota Access pipeline movements. Some people referred to them in terms that kind of described them as though they were, you know, engaging in criminality, whereas other people refer to them as water protectors, right? So language is a powerful thing. And what's cool is when you see people name themselves. So if they call themselves water protectors, you know what I mean? Then you can go ahead and look on Color Lines. I'm pretty sure that's what Color Lines called them. So thank you, Hiba, for that.
Of course. Thank you, Chevon. But before we exit this conversation and leave y'all to y'all days, I want to make another point in regards to the protests. There is clear distinction between how the police choose to show up when there are white people protesting public health with AR-15s in police's faces, and then how they choose to show up when it's Black folk and people of color standing up for racial inequality and police brutality. There is something to be discussed, something to be acknowledged, and I want folks to pay close attention to that when they are doing this work and when they are having these conversations. A prime example: there were no curfews set.
Not a one.
For the white folks that were protesting public health and had guns in their hands, shoving it in police's faces, right? But now that we have people of color and Black folk literally fighting for their lives, there's a curfew set within all the cities, which are now all 50 states. There's a curfew set for each city and each state. So I want people to be mindful of these things and take note of this. This is white supremacy in front of us, one-on-one, facing us.
If we could splice it in, one thing I didn't get to address about what you said is you talked about white people feeling uncomfortable. I mean, welcome to my world. Like, you know, like feeling uncomfortable is the least that you could do. So if you feel uncomfortable because you're not sure what to say to your black coworker or friend, maybe they're not really your friend. Because I don't feel uncomfortable to say nothing to my friends at work. I don't feel uncomfortable to really say to Hiba what I want to say to be supportive. Actually, I said it live on the air here.
You're getting a gist of our experience.
And that I did not know that all that was going on for her. So I will say that if you feel uncomfortable, just understand that it's not your job to be the person rolling out policies to support every black person at work. So if you feel like you're not educated enough to approach your black coworkers or whatever, that's fine. Maybe you can go ahead on and approach the leadership at your organization and say, I want to be in support of the black people at work, and I do not want to overstep my bounds. I do not want to cause further disruption or harm. I feel I am not educated. I'm working on it, but I would love to know what we as a company are planning to do so that I can get involved in it. Put the responsibility where it belongs if you're at work. Let's just be clear that everybody don't need to run willy-nilly at work. You can go ahead on and hold your leadership responsible. And then if they have questions of you, y'all can get into a meeting and decide what resources do you need to find and what do you need to do and what professionals can you speak with if you want to bring in a professional. Like it's there's a, you know, the same way that black people are not responsible to answer every white person's question at work about white supremacy culture, like, or white supremacy systems. Neither are white people at work or non-black people at work responsible for knowing everything to do in a corporate or business or nonprofit or institutional setting. That is why it's always amazing to see when a person like that, who's having those thoughts and has questions about boundaries or what might be best, goes online, Googles something like, how do white people fight white supremacy? Because I know people know how to Google stuff. And I know you know that it's going to return you a lot of options in the search result. Sometimes those people arrive right on Race Forward's page and come reaching out to Race Forward and saying, I see that you do trainings for institutions. I want to tell my CEO about that. I'm going to share this information. You see what I'm saying? So it's not hard, and discomfort is the least of what people can feel. So, you know, forge ahead. Like, that's really what I will say. Forge ahead.
I think we're coming to, you know, the end of our time here today. And I just wanted to highlight some things that have been expressed today. We stand in solidarity. We stand with the folks that are frontline workers at the hospitals, at the funeral homes, caretakers within the homes. We stand with y'all. We support y'all. And there we have a few updates, but before we get into the updates, I personally want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for tuning into us, for listening to us. I'm literally at a loss for words. The little girl in me, when I was in junior high school, I told myself I wanted to be a news broadcaster. Didn't think that podcast would be even a thing, right? But here we are, Chevon, living our dreams through our podcast. We have a community that is supporting us with this podcast, and I'm forever grateful. I thank y'all. And I love y'all from the bottom of my heart.
Sorry, I love what you just said. I really love what you just said, Hiba. Because I wanted to be in broadcasting as well. And I guess that's why this was pretty seamless for both of us. I guess because, like I said, if that's how we felt when we were even kids and we didn't know why, then, you know, sometimes you're graced with something that you can use for a greater good. And I love how you said, you know, living a dream. And I would love it if you would join with me, because you reminded me of someone who's really influenced me, who is no longer with us. They passed away of cancer. His name is Reggie Osei. He was a music industry veteran, an attorney, who moved into podcasting and actually kicked down the door for a lot of Black people get into it. And I would love for you, I put it in the chat, if we could read this together to outro into our announcements. So let's go on the count of three, huh? 1, 2, 3.
Dream them dreams.
Then man up and live them dreams. Because a life without dreams is black and white. And the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. In closing, Hiba, I know you had a quick update that you wanted to share, just really quick. So Hiba, is anything going on with Facing Race, our event that happens every 2 years where we convene various factions of the movement for racial justice together nationally? Is there anything going on there? I know we're in a different time now.
Child, are we? Short answer, yes. We've had the privilege to convene folks every 2 years for the past 10 plus years. Facing Race is one of the largest multiracial, intergenerational racial justice conferences in the nation. And the conference and convening teams at Race Forward is in contingency mode planning. So I want to be very transparent with our listeners, because I know many of y'all are looking for updates. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to figure out what is our next step, and also honoring the safety of our attendees. So we are currently in contingency mode planning, but there are a lot of factors that we have to take into consideration before we confirm what this conference will look like this coming November. Know that we're doing our best, and that you guys will have a word very, very soon. In the meantime, Chevon, we have shifted all of our building racial equity trainings to virtual, which is, in my opinion, very easy for folks to attend now. Shout outs to the MCB team at Race Forward. They've worked very hard in transitioning these in-person meetings to virtual meetings, and they are now being provided online. So please check out our raceforward.org website.
I'll share that with our producer for the show notes. And I appreciate you talking about that. We definitely are excited to have more people join the trainings online. I would love to just close with letting folks know that, Black trans lives matter also. Black trans lives matter. And I just want to make sure that people know that. I want to say that explicitly, because I've seen some things, I know that the community is hurting, and I want folks to, I don't care if you take a sign and you have your kids crayon and color that in and put it in your window, because we need to start getting really explicit about groups within groups that are not getting the support. So I just want to close in saying that, sending out love, y'all, sending love to everybody. So Hiba, on that note, let's encourage everyone to please rate and subscribe to the Momentum Podcast. Check it out on Apple Podcasts, check it out on Spotify, Pocket Casts. We'll try to direct you again to the show notes so that you can see, or on our landing page for the podcast. If you go to raceforward.org/media, you'll see it there, and you can decide how you want to subscribe. But please do give us a good rating if you've learned anything from any of the guests we've had on, or learned anything today. We really appreciate y'all.
Major love. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in.
Hello, this is Glenn Harris, president of Race Forward and publisher of Color Lines. To our new friends and subscribers, welcome to Momentum. In this moment, we at Race Forward affirm with a renewed sense of purpose our work of catalyzing racial justice movement building. In everything that we do, we will continue to center Black and Brown communities that are setting the course for a shared and equitable future. Justice is our horizon line, and we are with you on this march to liberation. I look forward to joining Hiba and Chevon on the next episode to have a discussion about what this all means for our health, well-being, for our communities, and for a just democracy. Until then, take good care of yourselves and each other.